Hi guys, welcome to a new video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make these heart granny square pouches. These are quick and easy to make and they can make for a perfect gift. They're so useful and versatile. I personally use mine the most for AirPods, but every time I have little knickknacks I want to put in my bag or like little medicines and like a band-aid and stuff like that, I just put them in these because they're just so useful. The pattern is beginner friendly, however, I don't recommend this for like your very first crochet project. I feel like this is when you're a little bit more familiar with the stitches. I've shown you very slowly on how to make all these stitches in the video, but I still feel like that you need to have at least just a tiny bit crochet experience prior to making this. However, if you do make this, I would love to see it. So these are my socials. Make sure that you tag me. Also, check out my other videos. I have a lot of tutorials coming up and I've already posted tutorials for a whole bunch of cute things. So if that interests you, please go ahead and check out my channel and consider subscribing. As always, if you have any feedback, please leave them in the comments down below and let's get on to the video. For this project, you're gonna need a hook. I am using a 2.5mm hook. Of course, you can use any hook size that you'd like, but I don't recommend going over a 4mm hook as I think that it will make your project look too bulky. And keep in mind that if you use a bigger hook or a smaller hook, your project will accordingly be smaller or bigger. You're gonna need some yarn that corresponds to the size of the hook that you've chosen. You're gonna need a pair of scissors and then a darning needle to weave in all the ends. For this project, you're gonna need a magic circle, and if you don't know how to make one, I will show you right now, but the chain 2 method also works, but I just recommend that you bite the bullet and learn how to make the magic circle as it is a crucial step for many crochet projects. So this is the tail end of my yarn. I'm gonna grab it with my thumb and my ring finger, and then I'm gonna wrap my yarn around my middle finger and my pointer finger. I'm gonna wrap it once and then wrap it again, making kind of like an X, and then I'm gonna hold the rest of my yarn with my pinky against my ring finger like this. And now you have 2 strands of yarn on your fingers, so insert your hook under that first strand and then grab this second strand here, pull it and then twist it. And now you're gonna make a chain 1 with the tail that is attached to your working ball of yarn, the one that you're holding with your pinky. So just put your hook under this strand of yarn here and then pull it through that loop that you made, and that's a chain. And then you can just remove your fingers, and this is a magic circle. So we already chained 1. For this project, you want to go ahead and chain 2 more. 1, 2. So you have a total of 3 chains, and this counts as your first stitch. So now we're going to go ahead and put double crochets into the magic circle. So to do that, grab your hook, wrap your yarn around your hook once, go into the magic circle, make sure that your hook is under both of these strands as this is what is going to make the magic circle tighter later on. So go under these 2 strands, grab your yarn, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 2 again. As I've already said, the first 3 chains that we did counts as 1, so right now we've technically done 2 stitches, and you're gonna need a total of 13, so we're gonna do 11 more. So again, just to show you, wrap your yarn around your hook, go into the circle, make sure that you're going under these 2 strands, grab your yarn, now you have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. This is the 13 stitches done, and how you can count them is by looking at these lines here. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And now if you pull on this tail, it'll make your magic circle tight. And you can make it even tighter later on based on the look that you'd like. So now we're gonna go back to the first initial chains that we did, and we're gonna find the 3rd chain. So my base chain here, the first one, is kind of small and it's hard to see, but this is my first chain, 2nd and 3rd. So I'm gonna insert my hook into that 3rd chain, and then I'm gonna make a slip stitch. So grab your yarn, pull it through that stitch. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. Pull the second loop into the first one, and that is a slip stitch. So now for round 2 of the heart, we're gonna actually start making the shape of the heart. This was the middle part. So we're gonna do a treble crochet. So we're gonna look at our work here. This would be our next stitch. This would be where we would put the next stitch, but we're gonna go ahead and skip that, and we're gonna do our stitches into the second one right here. And we're gonna do a new stitch. It's called a treble crochet, which is like a double crochet but just one more step. So you wrap your yarn around your hook twice. So normally for a double crochet we wrapped it around once, but for a treble crochet we wrap it around twice. As I've said, we're gonna skip that first stitch right here and go into that second one. So insert your hook into that second one, grab your yarn, and now you have 4 loops on your hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And that is our first treble crochet. So for the rest of the stitches, we're going to be working in that same stitch where we just did the treble crochet. And in total, we're going to put 8 treble crochets in this stitch. So we just did 1, we're going to do 7 more. So again, just to show you, wrap your yarn around your hook twice, go back into that same stitch that we were just working in, grab your yarn. Now you have 4 loops, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that's 2 treble crochets. So just continue doing this. Don't forget that you're wrapping your yarn around your hook twice instead of just once. And now this is what it looks like with the 8 treble crochets. So for our next stitch, find your next stitch. It's this one right here. We're gonna do a normal double crochet. So wrap your yarn around your hook once, go into that next stitch, grab a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And then in the next stitch, we're gonna do a double crochet again. So wrap your yarn around your hook. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then in that same stitch, we're gonna do a half double crochet. So again, wrap your yarn around your hook, go back into that same stitch, grab your yarn. You have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3. And that is a half double crochet. So then in the next stitch, again, we're gonna do 2 half double crochets. So wrap your yarn around your hook, 3 loops, pull all 3, and then 1 more into that same stitch. And then in the next one, you're gonna do a half double crochet, and then into that same stitch, a double crochet. And this is kind of basically 1/2 of the heart done. So we're gonna chain 1, and at this point you're gonna mirror exactly what you did on this side on the other side. So starting in our next stitch, do a double crochet and a half double crochet into the same stitch, and then 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, and then a half double crochet and a double crochet in the next one, and then just a double crochet in the next one. And now we're again at the stage where we're going to do the 8 treble crochets. So as a reminder, wrap your yarn around your hook twice, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. That's a treble crochet. So repeat this 7 more times for a total of 8 times. Once you're done doing your 8 treble crochets, again, we're going to skip the next stitch and make a slip stitch into the one after it. So skip this one and go into this one. The stitch might be a little bit tight, but it's fine. Just push your hook through it and then you'll eventually manage. And then we're gonna make a slip stitch. And then chain 1. And we can go ahead and cut our yarn. and then pull this through and then pull on it to make it super tight. And this is the heart portion of our granny square done. Now we're gonna turn our little heart that we made into a square. So grab your second color. I'm using a darker blue. And we're gonna find our fourth treble crochet that we did. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So into the fourth stitch right here. See if you guys can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've put my hook into the top of the fourth treble crochet right there. And then I'm gonna grab my yarn and make a loop kind of like this. Leave longer tail so that you can work with it more easily. Make a loop like this by just holding onto the yarn, and then put the loop on your hook and then pull it through that stitch, but not all the way, and grab your working tail and start chaining. You hold this tail at the back of the work so that it doesn't unravel. So now we're gonna start chaining. So chain 3, 2, and 3, and this is gonna count as our first stitch, which is a half double crochet. And then into that same stitch again, we're gonna make a double crochet. So wrap your yarn around your hook, go back into that same stitch, and I like to hold this tail over my hook right here so that I crochet it in as I go, so that I don't have to weave it in later on. And grab your yarn, pull it through. Now you have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And now we're gonna make our first corner. So chain 3, 2, 3, and then in our next stitch we're gonna make a double crochet. Again, I'm holding this tail over here, so a double crochet, and then a half double crochet into that same stitch over there. And now in the next stitch we're gonna do a half double crochet. I'm still crocheting over this tail, and I'm gonna do it for a couple more stitches, and then I'm just gonna let go of it and cut it later. So in the next stitch, do a half double crochet. In the next stitch we're gonna do single crochets. We're gonna do it twice. So put your hook through the next stitch, make a single crochet, and then go back into that same stitch and make another single crochet. And now I'm just gonna let go of this tail and no longer crochet over it. So in the next one we're just gonna make a normal single crochet, and then in the next one we do a single crochet, and then back into that same stitch we do a half double crochet. In the next stitch just do 1 half double crochet, and now we've reached our second corner. So we're gonna make the second corner. So wrap your yarn around your hook, we're gonna make a double crochet, go into the next stitch, make a double crochet, and then now we're gonna make a treble crochet. So wrap your yarn twice, go back into that same stitch where we just made the double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then pull through 2, and then chain 3, and then again triple crochet. So wrap your yarn twice, go into that next stitch, make your treble crochet, and then in the same stitch make a double crochet, and then in the one after it make a double crochet, and then a half double crochet, and then a single crochet. And if you look here, you've now reached the chain 1 part that we did. That counts as the bottom of our heart. So in this one we're gonna make a slip stitch, but only into the back loop. So if you look closely here, a stitch kind of looks like a V, and it has a front loop, which is the one that is facing you, and then a back loop, which is the one that is away from you. We're gonna go ahead and insert our hook directly into the middle of the stitch. and then we're gonna only pick up this back loop right here, and then we're gonna make a slip stitch into it. So we've made 1/2 of our square, and again we're basically gonna mirror exactly what we did. So in the next stitch, it's kind of difficult to find, but this is our next stitch. So put your hook through the next stitch, make a single crochet, and then a 1/2 double crochet in the next one, and then a double crochet in the next one, and we're again gonna make a 1/4. So do a double crochet in the next stitch, and then a treble crochet in that same stitch, then chain 3 times, a treble crochet in the next stitch, along with a double crochet into that same stitch, and then a double crochet in the next stitch, a 1/2 double crochet, and then a single crochet in that same stitch, and then just a single crochet, then again 2 single crochets into the same stitch, then in the next stitch a 1/2 double crochet, and you've again reached the corner. So for this corner we're going to do first a 1/2 double crochet, and then a double crochet, chain 3, in the next stitch do a double crochet, and then a 1/2 double crochet into that same stitch, and now we're gonna do a 1/2 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then a double crochet in the next stitch. We've reached the middle part of the heart. So for this middle part, you're gonna do a treble crochet directly into that middle part here. So wrap your yarn around your hook twice, and then go directly in that middle stitch here, and make your treble crochet, and then in the next one we'll do a double crochet. I'm holding this tail so that I crochet over it, and then we're gonna finish off by doing 2 1/2 double crochets in the next 2 stitches. Finish off our work, we're gonna make a slip stitch into that 3rd chain. So at the very beginning we did 3 chains, 1 2 3. These 2 stitches, make a slip stitch, and now I'm gonna carry the same color that I'm using onto the next round. So we're not gonna cut it, I'm just gonna go ahead and chain 3 again, and this is gonna count as our first double crochet again. So now in the next stitch I'm gonna do a double crochet, and for this round we're only doing double crochets all around. On this chain 3 space we're gonna keep the corner shape, so do 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space, or chain 3 space, and then chain 3 again, 1 2 3, and then in that same space make another 2 double crochets. So in total we're making 4 double crochets in this chain 3 space. And now starting on the side, find your next stitch, this one right here, and just make double crochets along the side. Each side is gonna have a total of 15 double crochets counting the corners. So 11 is gonna be along these stitches, and then we're gonna have 2 from either ends. So just start making normal double crochets into all these stitches. This corner again, so we're gonna do the same thing that we did. So make 2 double crochets in that space, and then chain 3, and into that same space make another 2 double crochets, and then that's a corner. And now again, in all these stitches, make double crochets. Once you reach that first chain 3 that you did, make a slip stitch at the top of this chain here, the third one. Make a slip stitch and then chain 1, and then you can just go ahead and cut your yarn. And then pull it tight. So you can cut these from like the very end, they're not gonna unravel. And then the tail that we just fastened off, I'm just gonna weave it in with my hook. So put your hook into the next stitch and then kind of just weave in this tail by going into some of the stitches. And then you can go ahead and just cut it. Be careful. Now, in my opinion, these granny squares on their own are kind of small to be turned into a pouch. So what I like to do is I like to use the color that I used for the heart and make a little border for the granny squares. And that's what I'm gonna do right now. This is just a border of single crochets in all these stitches. So go ahead and grab your second color. We're gonna make a slip knot with this. So how you make a slip knot, it's like making a magic circle, but instead you pull the yarn through. So again, hold your tail, wrap your yarn twice, go under that first strand, grab the second one and just pull it through. And then by pulling on these tails, you can make it tighter. So take your slip knot off your hook, insert your hook into this chain space right here, put the loop that you just made onto your hook, and then chain 1. This is gonna count as our first single crochet. And at this point, I don't want to add that many more stitches, so instead of chaining 3 in between the single crochets, we're just gonna chain 2. I just made my first single crochet and I'm going back into that space and making my second one. So now instead of chaining 3, I'm just gonna chain 2 and then go back into that same space and make my 2 other single crochets, and then this is the little corner. And then now, like we did before, you're gonna go into all these stitches and then just make single crochets, and with the corners you do 2 single crochets, 2 chains, and then another 2 single crochets. So just repeat doing this, and as I've mentioned, this part is kind of optional. I do it because it provides a nice contrast. My granny squares are a little bit too small for my liking, so like this, I make them just a little bit bigger. Once you reach your last stitch, just go ahead and make a slip stitch into that first stitch that you made right here. And then chain 1, cut your yarn, pull it through, and then pull it tight. So this step is not necessary, but I like to do it because it makes my squares have nice sharp edges. But I'm basically wet blocking the squares that I made. So I have this blocking board here, and what I do is I spray my square with water and then I stretch it over the blocking board like so. You could also just wet the square and place something heavy, like a heavy glass on top of it to just flatten it out a little bit. But as I mentioned, this part is not really necessary. You can just go ahead and skip that if you don't have a blocking board. These have been sitting on the blocking board for like 20-ish minutes, maybe 30 minutes, so I'm gonna take them off now. Now I have 2 squares, and each square has a good side and then a bad side where the back side of the work is, with the threads and stuff hanging off. I cut all the threads off of that one, but this is like the bad side where the stitches are the other way around. You want the bad sides to be facing each other, so I'm gonna flip this. So this is the bad side, and then I'm gonna put this one on top of it. So the bad sides are facing each other, and this is gonna be the inside of our work. As you guys can see, the inside of our work here, it has like the back side of it, and then the outside gonna have the neat part out. So just align them together like this. And now take the color that you want to use for the outside part, and then also for the little ruffles on the pouch. And I just like to use 2 colors, so I'm using the colors that I used to make the square. And then go ahead and make a slip knot with your yarn. I'm not gonna use my hook for this. You can just do it without a hook as well. And now you have your 2 squares, right? So I'm gonna put the first one down for just a second. So here we did 2 chains, right? So we're gonna go ahead and insert our hook into that second chain right here that goes down this side. We're gonna insert our hook into it, and then we're gonna go ahead and insert our hook into that same stitch on the other square, making sure that the bad sides are facing together. Okay, and now go ahead and put this loop that you just made onto your hook, and then pull it through these stitches that you just had your hook through, and then chain 1, and that counts as your first stitch. Now we're gonna be only picking up the back loop of the first square, and then it would be the front loop of the second square. So basically what I mean by that is, this is my square right here, and here would be my next stitch. So I'm gonna insert my hook into that back loop of that stitch, and then I'm gonna find that same stitch on this square. So it would be this one, but I'm only gonna pick up the front loop of this one, and then go ahead and make a single crochet. I'm gonna hold this tail so I crochet it along. So again, in the next stitch, pick up the back loop from your first square, and then the front loop of your second square, and then put the tail over your hook and make a single crochet. So basically you're gonna repeat doing this, making sure that you go into the back loops of the first square and then the front loops of the second square, and just make your single crochets all along. So you want to go ahead and do this on this side, and this side, making sure that you leave this 4th side open. That's the side that is facing upwards, and it's the side that we're gonna make the ruffles at. A little close up here, pick up the back loop, and then pick up the front loop, and then make your single crochet. Once you reach the corners, that's how you can tell if your stitches are lining up, and if they're not, it's okay. If like they're off by just 1 stitch, you can go ahead and skip this stitch on the side that has more, so you make them line up. But I've almost reached this corner. I'm on the last 2 stitches, so just making sure that everything is aligned. And now I've reached the chain 2 spaces, and I'm going to do the same exact thing I've been doing. Pick up the back loop and then the front loop, and then make a single crochet. This last stitch, I finished off my work by only going through 1 of the chains. To start making the little spaces to put the drawstring in, start by putting your hook into that chain 2 space, and then make a slip stitch. So now we're gonna go ahead and chain 4, and then count 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and then make a slip stitch into that 3rd one. And we're gonna repeat doing that. So again, you wanna chain 4, and then count 1, 2, and then put your hook through that 3rd stitch. So you're skipping 2 stitches each time. Because of how I like the drawstrings to meet in the middle right here, I want to have 6 of these spaces. So I now have made the 6 spaces on this side, but I have some extra stitches here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slip stitch into these stitches until I reach the other side. Now that I'm on the other side's chain 2 spaces, again I'm gonna start doing what I did. So chain 4, skip 2, slip stitch into that 3rd one. Again, for this side I've made the 6 little spaces, so for these last couple of stitches there's like only 3. I'll slip stitch until I reach this first chain space that I made. So now insert your hook into this chain space and then make a slip stitch here and then start chaining 3. This counts as your first double crochet. So now in this same space we're gonna make 4 more double crochets. Look at where I'm putting my hook. I am going like directly into that space. I'm not putting it into any of the stitches. That's 3, 4, and 5. In each of these spaces we're putting 5 double crochets. So I just did the 5 for this space, so now I'm moving on immediately to the next one. There is no chaining, no nothing involved in between them. So again, 5 double crochets into the next space. And repeat doing this all around. In the places we did a slip stitch, just put a double crochet into the slip stitches. This may be a little bit difficult because slip stitches are quite tight, but if you just push your hook through it, you can get through it. I'm gonna make 1 double crochet into this space right here in the middle as well. And now I've again reached the chain 4 spaces. On this last stitch, go ahead and find the 3rd chain that you did on that first chains that we did and make a slip stitch. And then chain 1, and you can go ahead and cut your yarn and pull it tight. So now I basically have a bunch of loose ends that I'm gonna go ahead and weave in. I'm just gonna use my hook for it because the tails are too short to put through the needle. And this is actually a hack that I like to use, that when the tails are too short to put through the needles, I just use my hook. This is the pouch done, and now we're gonna make the little drawstring. So the drawstring is essentially 1 long chain that I don't count how many chains I do because I measure it as I go. So that's what we're gonna do here as well. So again, start by making a slip knot and pull it tight, and then just start chaining. And once you have a decent amount, we're gonna go ahead and measure it and see if we need to do more or less. So I've made a chain that's about, I want to say like 30 centimeters long. So now I'm going to go ahead and try this. I'm going to try to feed this through the little spaces, and bear in mind that this stretches over time because you're going to be pulling on it quite often to tie and untie this. So just keep in mind that it's going to stretch as well. But how I test to see if I've done enough or not is I put this end, so this is the end that is still on my hook. Do not take off your hook because it's gonna unravel. So just take this other end and put it through the middle space here. So we have 2 spaces that are like in the middle because I said I did 6, right? So if you start counting from the left side, I'm putting it on the 3rd space, and then just pull it through all the way. And now we're gonna be going like back and forth, feeding this in and out. So in this space, we put it inside. So now we're gonna feed it from the inside to the outside through the 2nd space. And then now we're gonna put it back on the inside through the 3rd space. And then now going to the other side, we're gonna take it out. And be doing this alternating motion. This is what it looks like. I think that I'm happy with this length because when you pull it tight, you can you have enough to make it into a little bow. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut my yarn and then pull on my last chain and then make it super tight. And now I'm gonna go ahead and trim these ends as well. Also, if your yarn is acrylic, and keep in mind, only do this if your yarn is acrylic, because acrylic yarn melts, other types of yarn burn. But if your yarn is acrylic, you can just go ahead and use a lighter to burn off that end so that it doesn't fray. Like just a tiny bit of heat so that it melts it. This is what the final pouch looks like. You can put anything that you want in it and then tie it together and even make a cute little bow.